So since Holly has given birth to her two chicks, you've seen the two chicks quite closely together in this area, is that right?
For the first 2 months or so, Barry and Bush stayed really close together and around this area.
And how unusual is that for two chicks to stay together after they've hatched?
I think it's unusual that they don't get sort of taken away from each other with other forces, like getting driven out of the territory, or one's a male and one's a female and they'll go do different things. I think both Barry and Bush are females, so they're staying together in this area and probably going to establish nests themselves this year.
Yeah, because last time we saw Holly and Bush, Bush had just hatched.
Right.
And so what's been going on since then?
Well, as you know, Holly has to take care of the chicks for the entire time they're in the nest and for a few weeks after. So during that time, she has to actually eat for 3. Now, you think it's hard enough for a human to eat for 2, but here we are with a little bird that's got to hunt every day, catch enough food for herself and her 2 chicks.
Holly's job now is to catch enough food for her and her chicks, but also to keep them warm.
Up until they get to be about 10 days old, they don't have enough mass where they can regulate their own body temperature. So they have to rely on mom sitting on them. Now, luckily, it's nice and comfy and cozy and everything in there, so they're able to do that. But what it does mean is that mom can't leave the nest for very long.
Can you just describe the chicks and the changes physiologically that they go through from when they're an egg to a full-fledged adult?
Well, of course, hummingbirds are known for their really long beaks. But when they're in the egg, of course, they can't have that. So they come out with this little nub on the end of their face. And that little beak will be about that big when they first come out, and it'll end up being about that big when they fledge.
Just for the beak?
Just the beak, yeah.
And what about their body mass?
Body length is going to be about that big when they first come out to about that big without the beak.
Over the course of a month?
Right. It's really a phenomenal growth spurt.
So the birds are in the nest for about a month. We know that there are predators, but what are some of the other dangers that they have to face?
Well, Holly, Barry, and Bush also had flower mites. Now, this is the first time I've seen it on any nest that I've ever watched. And flower mites typically go from flower to bird to flower. But if you put a nest in the middle, that's where the flower mites get off. And then that becomes a little transfer station for the flower mites. And the problem with having a nest with chicks in it is that they stick around with the chicks. So every time Holly came in, she'd transfer off some flower mites, and then maybe some flower mites would come back to her. But meanwhile, Barry and Bush were stuck living with these mites all over them. And although the mites don't bite them or suck their blood or do anything like that, it's got to be annoying because you can see them crawling all over them. I mean, it made me itchy just to film them. Mom hangs around and feeds them for the first couple of weeks, but she also teaches them how to eat. And she teaches them by showing them. So she'll come up to feed them when they're sitting on a branch or something, and she may not feed them, but instead she'll show them how to eat by maybe picking at a flower or catching a bug.
And how long does it typically take before the little chicks figure it out on their own? How many times do you have to show them?
It doesn't take very long. It's within about a week, they've started to eat on their own. And then mom starts to wean them off. So she'll start feeding them less and less, and the birds either learn how to take care of themselves or they don't. That's a big challenge. And they have to learn all this very quickly within a couple of weeks.
Barry and Bush flourished and are now living in Hummingbird Hill. Next week on Hummingbird Hill, winter is here, and you'll never guess where hummingbirds go.